Guys. I'm gonna continue with the topic that we started last time. I believe it's on Saturday. We're talking about the financial planning, talking about the financial issues and the estate planning, those kind of things. Last time I mentioned that a lot of financial, the financial expert, they are very strongly opinionated. They put their own opinion above the public service. In other words, they're doing a disservice for the public. Although they have the title, they have the reputation, they have the education, they have the background, but in the end, they're not doing a good public service. So we're gonna try to put this everything back because we really believe that the financial education is everything. Everybody, it concerns everybody, it's important for everybody, and we have to get the idea right. We cannot just say, okay, this guy is the expert, I listen to him or her like 100%. That's not the right way to do it. Just to say that, to show that how popular it is that for us to see those non-fiduciary financial expert. Okay, they, like I said, the fiduciary should put the customer's interest before theirs. But in a lot of times, that's easier said than done. A lot of the financial experts, they actually they care more about their own personal opinions. Okay. Last time I used the example of Susie and David, and David actually arguing that he is not a big fan of non-qualified annuity. Okay. So he basically says that Susie, you're right. You say that a lot of things you said about annuity is right, but only because those are non-qualified annuity. So he said, I'm not a big fan of a non-qualified annuity, so I agree with you, but I just want to find out that I just want to point out that for qualified annuity, it's a different story. Okay, so but I'm gonna show that later on another post. I don't think it will be time for doing that this time, but another post we're going to show that even the so-called, non-qualified annuity has its own position. Okay, so we can't just say, just because you personally are not a big fan of something, that we should forget about that. That's not the way to do it. The other example that is the other day I read from LinkedIn, there was one post, I don't remember the name, and also, I'm not supposed to say that because nothing's personal, right? So I saw another post. The post I was trying to look for it today, but I don't know, for some reason I can't find it. So the post is another very good example of strong opinionated, says that the doctors, please don't ever buy a whole life insurance. Okay, so and then the guy listed the 14 reasons. We're gonna get to that later on. But I'm just saying, making this point that the very absolute, extreme, non-objective or more subjective opinions are out there everywhere. So it's easy for us to see it. How do we do it? We give the right, balanced, objective education. Okay, so the key point that I cannot emphasize enough is that whenever you're talking about generic, blanket recommendations or opinions, you are basically lying. Okay, so the best example, the best financial education has to adapt to individual, personalized opinions and options. So that's the key difference that we're trying to make. But anyway, let's, I want to do this, to present two PDF files. Actually, originally I produced from the Google Sheet, because Google Sheet is actually, in my opinion, is actually better than well, probably not the same better, but at least as good as the Microsoft Excel. But the most important thing, it's free. So you can get it. You don't need the subscription. You don't need the Microsoft Office 365. You don't need that. You don't need to pay it. The Google, it comes free. So I produced the Google Sheet with 2 tables, and then I printed it as a PDF file, and then using the PDF, because in order to show that as a video, you have to save the file into image, either image or video. So so those are the 3 steps. First, I created the the Google Sheet. And then I translate that, I print that out, Google Sheet as a PDF file, and then using the online program, you can convert PDF file into JPG file, which is the one I'm going to use in this video. So basically, I have 2 Google Sheet. I'm going to put that as an attachment or on the video description of the YouTube channel. And then the worksheet is unrealistic. The point is that I want to use the worksheet where remember I'm comparing non-qualified mutual fund and annuity. Okay, the non-qualified, I purposely doing that because David says he's not a big fan of a non-qualified annuity. I'm going to show the people that non-qualified mutual fund and annuity can make a big difference, can make a big contribution for some people, not for everybody. Okay, so the first sheet, I assume that again compare mutual fund. I call it MF. In the table, you'll see that MF does stand for mutual fund. And then annuity, I spelled out annuity. But then I assume that at the beginning of it, the one individual invested 10 grand. Okay, and the beginning of it, 10 grand, and then assume that the mutual fund, into mutual fund, okay, non-qualified mutual fund. So into mutual fund, the growth rate I assume is 9%. Okay, you call it the growth rate, you call it gain, you call it the return, whatever, this mean the same thing. 9% is actually, it's not a falling from sky because I checked that the average return for mutual fund is between 9 and 12%. So I used the low end because I need to compare mutual fund and annuity. Annuity is totally different story. Their gains, their growth, and their return is much lower, usually 4 to 5%. So, but for the first sheet, I assume I made an unrealistic assumption. Basically says that for mutual fund, non-qualified mutual fund, and the non-qualified annuity, they both grow at 9%. Obviously, that's a fantasy, right? It's impossible. But the point for the first sheet is to show that the power of compounding, okay? Because remember, the mutual fund has to be taxed every year at the capital gain rate, which is lower, right? Usually, like I said last time, that the capital gain tops at 20%. If you are high net worth, and then you sometimes you pay 23%. But for income tax, that was the IRS will charge income taxes for annuity. The annuity income tax can be as high as 37%. Top bracket, okay? As low as like 10% or 12%. So I'm going to show, so in that table, I show the 2 things. I show that if annuity can grow as much as mutual fund and without being taxed each year. Remember, annuity is tax deferred. Annuity is sold by insurance companies, so they are not considered the IRS. In the eyes of IRS, they will not see it as the security. Okay, instead it's an insurance product. So they will charge that as a, income tax. But remember, for each year they don't. So like a year one you got a 10 grand, a year two you got the increase, the amount increase, but IRS will not chase after you. They won't say, hey, you have to pay taxes at the end of each year. So think of it this way. For the best metaphor is that think of the non-qualified mutual fund as a big bathtub. I like this metaphor. You're adding water into the bathtub. But for the mutual fund, it's a leaking bathtub. Why? Because you have to pay, at the end of each year, you have to pay taxes. It's a capital gain taxes, so it's lower. You pay as much as 20%. That's it. But still, you're leaking. So part of money is leaking, even though you try to, try to get the highest return from the mutual fund. But part of money is leaking because Uncle Sam is taking some money out of it as the tax each year for capital gain taxes. On the other hand, the annuity is not leaking. Annuity is also same idea. You're adding water into the bathtub, but because this time your bathtub is a solid bathtub, you don't pay taxes each year. So for the let's say assume that 20 years for the over the period of 20 years, the annuity will not pay. For from year one to year 19 until the last year when when the annuity is ready to distribute it. So assuming in the case of 20 years, at the end of the annuity, before you can take distribution, then IRS will come after you. They say, hey, you have to pay taxes. So let me stop here. We'll talk about next time.